see nowadays everyone is choosing we are having different roles, right? In software industry, like something like SAP, we have the data engineer, we have DevOps and admin, security. Like this, we are having so many roles in software industry. And like for each and every role will be replaced with some other tools. For example, previously, like we're having so many different roles, right? For example, previously we are having something like BPO. Now there, that was replaced with some AI, and whenever we chart, whenever we do some chart, and it was going to, or based upon your inputs, it is sending some answers, like whatever you're searching for. And like that, for each and every role, it is replacing with some other tools. And like when comes to this Azure Data Engineer, like this is something like, it is not something like a replaceable. Why we are saying it is not something like replaceable? See, like here we need something like customization in the sense, like for each and every industry, the data will generate in different formats, different formats in the sense. For example, like let's take let me go with the agenda. Like for today's session, right, this is the agenda. Like let me introduce like what is this Azure Data Engineer, then we'll go with one by one. Okay. And in this Azure Data Engineer, right, what is this role is built up? It is something like what this Azure Data Engineer will do. Like basically, the data will be generated from applications or some missions or some websites. The data will be generated from different source systems in different format. And what we will do with this data, and whatever the data has been generated from these source systems, we will collect that information. First we will collect that information, and then after collecting that information, we will store that information in one storage service. One storage service will store that. Okay. First what we will do, we will collect the data from different applications. And then what we will do, then we will store it. We will store the data. And post storing, then what we need to do, we need to make the data into a proper format. For that, what we'll call cleaning. And making in the format in the sense, see, the data will be generated in something like some, what I can say, like the special characters will be there, and some like unwanted underscores will be there, and some different formats, like either the timestamps will be in different format, or else some null data will be there, or some duplicate data will be there, like which is not required for the business people. And for that, like all the transformations, and whenever you are generating one final report, it is something like combination of multiple tables, something like customer table, or something like product table, and something like sale table. And it's a combination, we need to generate a report on combination of these tables come together. And in that case, like we need to clean first these tables, and post that we need to perform some aggregation kind of things. That process we'll call it as a cleaning. And post this cleaning, we will make this data into a, what I can say, like for business use. And what now, post this, once we clean this data and once we store the data in our final destination, then data analyst team will come into the picture. Then we'll call it as a Power BI. What they will do, they will connect to the source system, and they will create some DAX queries, and then they will populate this data into a pictorial representation in some report format. So business users, what they will do, they will download those reports, final reports, and they will use that for their business development purpose. And this is the main like this is the main roles and responsibilities, like day-to-day activities of the Azure Data Engineer. And like always, he need to focus on these areas. Okay. And why this role is so important, why this role is so important? See, everyone can't able to do this work. Okay, because we need to perform some transformations and we need to analyze the data, and we need to check whether the data is populating properly or not, and we need to check the data types, and if the data type mismatch happens, then obviously the null will be populated in that particular field. And all these kind of validation we need to perform each and every column level and each and every row level. That kind of knowledge is required in this role. And this data, right, like post like this data, right, in this data also we are having different formats. Like what are the different formats we are having? Something like unstructured, structured, and semi structured. Semi structured, how we will categorize this data? See, like we are having something like social media platforms, something like Facebook and Twitter, something like YouTube. Okay, and like this we are having different social media platforms, and Insta. Like this we are having many other, and like in these social media platforms, right? And whenever we post some what I can say, some photo or some videos or some text or some information into these social media platforms, like whenever we get some likes or comments, and we'll get something like shared, and this metadata kind of information we will get. Okay, and this kind of data we will call it as a unstructured. It is not structured format. And we'll get the comments like in different people's will comment like in different formats and different methods. And what in few whenever we launch some product, right, during that time, what this marketing people will do, they will put some post, and they will add all the required information into that, and they'll collect all the information, like they'll collect all the reviews in the form of comments, and they will do some analysis, and they will take the report and post that, like based upon that feedback they will improve that particular product. Because always in the data, right, in like not in market, like in industry wise, always the customer satisfaction is a major, like it's something like a important to the product owner. Whenever the customer satisfies, obviously he is going to do more marketing whenever he satisfies. Whenever he won't satisfies, obviously he is going to do something like a negative marketing. So always, whenever we are designing any product, always we need a customer satisfaction. And how we will get that, like whether the customer is satisfying or not, or we are getting some negative impact, always like based upon their comments and based upon their feedback. Whenever we get a proper feedback from the customer, then based upon that feedback we can improve our product. So based, like in current market we are having a lot of competition. If you want to stay in that competition, obviously you need a data, and on top of that you have to do some analytics, and then you have to take some decisions based upon that final report. Okay, and now this something like pose is unstructured. We are having something like a structured data. Like what is this structured data? Structured data is something like we are having something like a tables, right? The column and rows. Okay, and if you see the data, you can able to read the data and you can able to understand what is happening inside. And if you read something like a customer ID, yeah, obviously you can able to identify this is a customer ID. And if you read something like a customer name, yeah, this field, in this field all the customer related names will be there, and here like all the customer address will be there. And like that we can able to understand easily, and we can able to read that data, and that we'll call it as something like Excel or tables or SQL or tables. Okay, this we'll call it as a structured data because it is something like well organized. Okay, so we can able to read the data properly, and we are having something like a semi-structured data, something like JSON and XML and something like some programming like I can say PHP or some Java. All these, whenever the coding, some coding will be there, right? That kind of files we'll call it as a semi-structured data. The XML, JSON, or some Python scripts or PHP or like these kind of data will be there, right? That we'll call it as a semi-structured, because we can able to read and understand, but like whenever you see the data, like you can't able to read directly. You have to do some analysis. Like if you have some coding knowledge, then you can able to understand. But like the people who is not having the coding knowledge, right, they can't able to understand that directly. So that is categorized as a semi-structured data. Like this, the data has been categorized in three different formats. Three different formats. And like based upon this, right, like whenever like when as a data engineer, first what you have to do, you have to analyze like what type of data I'm having in the source side, like either it's unstructured or structured or semi-structured, and which storage account is having the capability to handle the data, and what is the cost, and like what are the futures, and everything you have to analyze that. Once you are having the clear knowledge on that particular service, then you can able to provide all this information to the client or to the managers. Okay, and here, right, in data also, like each and every day, like data is keep on growing. How the data is keep on growing, see, like per day, like in Facebook, we are getting something like 4 petabytes of data, like only in Facebook. Like that, we are having n number of social media platforms, and each and every platform, like around like minimum to minimum, at least like what I can say, like 50 TB minimum data will be generated. Okay, like to handle these much of data, like this data will be keep on increasing like year by year. Okay, and like obviously, like we need different tools required to handle that much amount of data, and like a lot of like different enhancements needs to be done, like on tool wise, on analytics wise, on like what I can say, like the data wise as well. And this much of data is generating, right, and like to make this data into a proper format, obviously the data engineer and like different teams will be involved. The data scientist is required, and the data engineer will be required, and data analyst is required, and the data science is also required, and he's going to estimate the future. Okay, and these many peoples will be involved to handle this data. Okay, and for this, right, like we are having in Azure, right, we are having so many different types of tools, like in Azure, like to handle various different types of data. For example, let's take a storage service. We are having something like storages in Azure. It is having the capability to store any type of data, any type of data. It is having capability to store unstructured, structured, or semi-structured. Okay, and if you are having your data properly, so for example, like you are having the structured data, then you can handle that with the help of Azure SQL database. SQL database is having the capability to handle the structured data, and you can write the SQL queries, and you can perform like whatever the analytics you want. And here, like we are having, and now this is something like Azure. This is something like Azure. And before coming into Azure, like for example, let's take one scenario, and we are having some application. Take example as Zomato. Okay, And in Zomato, what will happen? Like whenever you register, like one ID will be created on top of your name, and like whenever you place some orders, obviously the data will be captured in the databases. Like for that Zomato application, like whichever the database have been configured, in the database, the data will be stored. Let's take some Oracle. They have configured some Oracle database and which is exist on on-premises sources on-premises. Okay, this is existing on premises, and like they want to analyze some data and like how many orders have been placed at this quarter, and like what is the sales in each and every area, like in different cities, like whatever wherever they're providing the services in whichever the village, like what I can say, like the towns or cities. Like they want to do some analytics, like where is high and where is low, and like which product is selling high and which product is selling low, and which in which hotel measure people are placing the order, and they want to do some this kind of information. They want to do this kind of analytics. They want to do, and this is the requirement. And now here in this scenario, and now to perform this analytics, right, and we need to do some like in this Oracle, right, like here we are having different application. For example, like this Zomato is I have also having something like for each and every region they will handle different Oracle databases, because they're having some huge demand in certain time and huge demand, like they won't have demand at like different times. So like due to that, like they are handling like a different Oracle system for each and every city. For example, they're having something like databases four databases they are having. And from these four databases, now what we need to do as a Azure data engineer, like we need to connect to these uh, to these four databases, Oracle databases, and now we need to extract the data. And extract in the sense, like we are having something like Azure Data Factory. And what this data factory will do, this will call it as a ETL tool. ETL in the sense extract, transform, and load. And it is going to extract the data from the source system, and like wherever you want to load that data, right, there it is going to load finally. And it performs some like ETL transformation. And poses, like we got the data, and we have connected to these four databases, and we have placed this data into for example like Azure SQL data, not Azure SQL data, so like let me put it to this Azure data lakes and storage. Okay, and in this storage account I have placed my data. And now, right, this data, like whatever the data we have extracted and we have placed, and it is something like it's a raw data. And now you no need to go and connect to Oracle database. Why? Because like whenever you hit this database, right, obviously it will create some slowness, because this what I can say, like whenever you are performing some transformation, right, always you need to hit this Oracle database. What will happen, like whenever you hit the database, obviously it will create some slowness, okay, on performance wise. So what we will do, like we will extract this data from these Oracle databases on non-business hours. Okay, during non-business hours, right, during that time we will extract this data and we will place the data into this Azure data lake. And from now onwards we will use the data which we have stored in this data lake Zento. Okay, now after storing this data, right, now like either in you can store it in either in format like CSV or something like Parquet. Okay, like any format we can store, and like based upon like if we store this in a Parquet format, like it is something like the cost optimization techniques and something like more reliability, like whenever you are performing the transformation, you'll get some quick response. It's something like columnar storage. And CSV is also like something like comma separated value, and like here in Parquet it is something like the data will be in encrypted format. It looks something like that. And post the storing the data in these formats. And now what we need to do? We need to do some analytics. Now what we need to do? We need to make the data into a proper format. Okay, and if the data is in structured format and you are having something like a small amount of data, okay, small amount of data, then we will go with Azure SQL database. Okay, and we will go with Azure SQL database whenever you are having the small amount of data, and you are having huge amount of data, then we will go with Azure Databricks. We will go with Azure Databricks. In Azure SQL database, we need to write SQL queries. Okay, we need to write SQL queries. In Databricks, it will something like it will support like multiple languages, something like Python and SQL, Scala, or and it will support Java as well. And you can write in a PySpark as well. Okay, Java is something like you can include that, but like we can't write like full fledged. We can include that. Okay, like it will support these many languages. The Databricks. And here, right, like whenever you perform some transformations, like it is having something like a where you're going to use some clusters, it will make it is something like compared to other analytics platforms. It is something like 100 times faster than the traditional analytics platforms. And here, right, here what we will do, like first we will read this data from this we'll read this raw data, and this raw data we will make it in a multiple layers, something like raw. We are having the medallion concept, something like bronze and silver and gold. And this kind of method we are going to use in Azure Databricks. And when comes to this Azure SQL database, here we will create some schemas, and we can you can create like whichever the schema you want, and like something like we will create some audit schema for audit tables, and config schema for config tables, and you can create something like raw schema, or else or you can create some business schema as well. We can create something like dimension tables and something like fact tables, dimension and fact, something like that. We can create a different schemas, and like even if the table is also duplicate, then there is no worries, because the schema is going to change, right? So we can able to handle that. Like this we can create a different schemas, and each and every schema we will create the required table, and we will perform some transformation with the help of SQL queries. And for that we'll use something like a store procedures for automation purpose, and they will perform some transformations, and we will load it into the final target table. And here also we will perform something similar kind of transformation, something like bronze is having something like the raw data, and silver is having something like cleaner data, and gold is having something like a aggregated, the which is final business logic which applied on top of this kind of data we will handle here. And post this like if there was some requirement to move this data into the Snowflake, then we will connect the Snowflake to this Databricks, and we will create the required tables into the Snowflake, and we will move that data into that. And like we can use from here like wherever we want, and like a few people they will connect directly
Anil,
via.
sorry to interrupt. Can you zoom a little bit or increase the font size because Students are unable to
Is that okay
catch
now?
the text. Yeah,
Is
Thank
that okay
you.
now? Oh, sorry. You had to inform me before only, right?
yeah,
Okay, sorry. Here. And here, right? Yeah, we are here, right? Yeah. After creating this gold layer, right? Something like post this creating the gold layer, and it is something like final aggregated data will be holded here. Okay, and what this gold will like whatever the data is having in the gold, either like we can use and in whichever service we want. Like you can push this gold data into snowflakes, or you can create the reports directly on top of this gold layer. Okay, and these are the like roles and responsibilities which is handled by the data engineer. And like we are having some security things will be there, like we should not hard code each and every value, like whatever the credentials we'll get from the oracle team or from different teams, right? Like we should not hard code those values directly. We need to use some key vault. Like in Azure, we are having something like key vault, and with the help of that key vault, like we can secure our credentials, and we can use like wherever we want. Okay, any questions or any doubts so far?
Sorry to interrupt, Anil. Can you just explain what is this bronze, silver, and gold like in this Azure Databricks, please?
Yeah, yeah. Here, right? Like we are having something like a Unity catalog. Okay, that is a different concept that we will cover in upcoming sessions. We are having something like a Unity catalog, and in this Unity catalog, under this we can create multiple schemas. Schema in the sense like the schema which we can create in SQL database. Okay, and here, right, under like in multiple schemas we can create something like we can name this as something like this: the bronze, silver, and gold. We can name it something like that based on your project name. You can follow any name. And here, right, in bronze we will have something like raw data. Okay, raw in the sense as is, whatever the data you have pulled from the source system, same data will be there as it is. And post this, again we are going to read this data in uh, like this. First we will store this data in the bronze layer, and after storing this data into the bronze layer, and on top of this bronze layer we will perform some transformation. And what type of transformation we are going to perform? Something like removing the nulls, the data types, and some column renames, and new columns, new required columns. Okay, and deduplication. All these kind of operations we are going to perform. And after performing this kind of transformation, then we will move the data into silver layer. Okay, after applying all these transformations we will move the data into the silver layer, and this data is something like cleaned data. Okay, everything has been fixed. Now after cleaning, after performing this clean, right, now we need to implement some business logic. For example, what is something like business logic? For example, as I mentioned, we are having something like customer table, and we are having something like sales table, and we are having something like some orders table. Okay, now I want to generate some report like which customer have placed like what orders and like what is the sale percentage, like on which or like what product he consumed a lot, something like that. I have to generate some report. Now what I need to do, I need to join all these tables, and whatever the fields I need from these tables, I need to select those fields, and then I have to perform some group by operations and some aggregation transformations, and based upon the requirement, final report. Then, after applying all this transformation, then I will store the data into gold layer. Okay, and now whatever the data is required for your report, that data will be moved into this gold layer under specific table. Is that clear?
Yeah,
This
it's
will,
clear now.
yeah, like this we will segregate the layers. So like whenever you want to perform some transformation, like instead of like why we need these layers, see I can create only one layer. Why we need this? See, like I want to add some columns. I don't want to disturb this gold layer. Just I can add that in the bronze layer. Okay, I want some aggregation, like I want to perform, I want to give, I want to add some group by on additional field, then I can put that here. Okay, that for that it is used. And always this bronze is something like the raw data is something like it's a backup kind of thing. See, like whenever you are performing some transformation, right, always you need some backup post the transformation. If any issues comes in future, right, always we need to get back like how the data looks past and how the data looks present. So like each and everyone will go with the incremental load only. Anyone is having idea like what is incremental load and what is something like full load?
Uh, I know about the incremental loading.
Okay, yeah, basically like in Azure, right, like in data engineer perspective, we are having two types of loads. One is something like incremental load and another one is full load. And this incremental load, few people they'll call it as the update and upsert. And what this incremental load handles, for example, like we are having something like customer, assume like 1 2, and he's a customer 2. And now like he's located in Hyderabad, and customer 2 is located in Bangalore. Okay, and now like customer 1 is located in Hyderabad and customer 2 located in the Bangalore. And now let me take this is something like old data which I have already inserted. Now the customer 1 also moved from Hyderabad to Pune or else Mumbai. And now one more person added, something like customer 3, and he is from Kochi. Okay, see, one new field was inserted and like one existing record was updated. And customer 1 is moved from Hyderabad to Mumbai. Now what we need to do, like whenever you are handling something like incremental load, and I don't want to create some duplicate records here. Because if I create duplicates and it is something like clumsy, like the data will be increasing, keep on increasing, which is not required for me. So now, like now what I will do, I will perform some incremental load. What this incremental load will do, like existing on top of the existing record, right? Just it is going to update this record. Wherever it finds something like customer ID is 1, in that point, like in that row, it is going to update that country field. I can say city instead of country. Sorry. Okay. And here, right, it is going to update this Hyderabad with Mumbai. And now, like we got something like new record, like customer 3 is from Kochi, and it is going to insert this record. This will call it as a upsert, update and insert. Update the existing field, like if any changes happened in the source data, and insert the new field, like if any new insertion records. Okay, and this will call it as a update, like upset. And we are having something like full load. What this full load will do, it will truncate the full data. Truncate in the sense like it is going to delete the full data, and it will reload with the source data. It will reload with the source data. And we are having another name, something like this will call it as a append mode, and this will call it as a overwrite mode. These are the terminologies which we are going to use. It is append mode, and this is something like a overwrite mode. Overwrite in the sense like it is going to replace the existing data with the new data. And upset, like only it will update and insert the new records. Okay. Any doubts in this, team? Getting or not getting? Can see some messages. Hello.
I have one doubt in the medallion architecture.
Okay.
Like you have informed that we will store the bronze data and we'll store the silver data and we'll store the gold data. Where we will store that data?
Yeah, that is something like medallion architecture, right? Medallion architecture is something like uh, it is something like Delta Lake House.
All the data will be stored in the lake house only. Like all the bronze data will also stored in the lake house.
Yes.
Silver
Yes.
also in the lake house.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything will be stored. Because here we have some schema, right? The schema is going to divide that.
Okay.
While you are writing the data, right? During that time, you are going to mention the schema.
Yeah.
Okay. Then under that schema, the table will be created.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Under that, you can perform some CURD operations post creating the table. CURD in the sense like a create, update,
Yeah.
read, and
And
delete.
delete.
Okay.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. And for this course, right, we are going to use something like Azure portal. Okay. And this is something like we are having this Azure portal, right? It is something like free of cost. It is not chargeable. Like we are having something like a free trial option we have for this Azure portal. To get into this portal, right, we are having something like portal.azure.com. Okay, this is the URL for the Azure portal. Okay, to create this account, right, first you have to create one Outlook mail ID, and post that you have to sign in. And before signing in, right, we are having something like Azure free tier, free account, free trial. You can select anyone. Yeah, and you can see, right, try Azure for free, and something like pay as you go. Once we click here, right, and it is not chargeable. Like this Azure account is not chargeable, and it is something like free of cost. It is something like free of cost. And what we need to do, like post creating this our account, right, Outlook account, right, then we need to give some credentials. Like it will ask your basic details, your mobile number, and your credit card, and like it will accept the ICICI Bank debit card as well, and it will accept like Master and Visa and American Express. Only these cards it will accept. Okay, and like they are not going to charge, and they will debit only 2 rupees, and they will credit back. And until you choose pay as you go model, right? They are not going to charge for your services. And you can explore, like once you create this storage account, like this Azure account, and once you see that account, right, then you'll get some clear understand, like something like where the services are exist, and like how the hierarchy and all the things you can able to understand clearly. Getting?
Yeah.
I will show, like I will create this account tomorrow because I don't have the credit card handy. First, I create one account. There was some problem. Let me give some. Yeah. Now it will ask a few details for personal use. Data, let it be. See, after filling all these details, right, then we have to select next. And here, right, we need to provide all our credit card details. Either like a few credit cards, not few, like it will accept like all credit cards, like the Master, Visa, and American Express, and this the debit card, right? I can see something like a few cards it will accept. Okay, see here, right? They will give some instructions. See, after your credit is over, we will ask you to want to continue with pay as you go. If you do, you will only pay. Okay, if you use more, then the free amount will of service. Like see, like they will give something like 13,000 credits. Okay, for 30 days, and within that time you can use these credit. Okay, if you what I can say, like if you use some clusters on top, right, obviously like they're going to charge more. Like obviously these credits will be utilized for those compute services, and 55 services will always free, and like you can't able to use, but like they have mentioned something like free, but like you can't able to use. And this, right, once you complete this 30 days free trial, right, then you can't able to use. Again, you have to create a new service, a new account for practice purpose. And always like you should, they won't charge until you select the pay as you go. You can see, please provide the credit card or debit card. We will make a temporary authorization on this card, and you won't be charged unless you move to pay as you go. We are having the tiers, pricing tiers, that I will discuss in detail in upcoming session. And once you select this, choose this pay as you go model, then only they will charge. Until unless they're not going to charge. Just we need to give our credit card details, and then we need to click on the sign up, and they're going to charge like 2 rupees, and they will credit back. Just for authorization purpose, they will debit 2 rupees. And in UK, like they're going to delete like £1, I think so. Debit £1. Yeah.